Okay, so get yourself set up for your morning practice. Sit yourself on the lift and just come into a good cross-legged position. So just sit yourself in a level cross-legged position, hold onto your knees, and then elevate your chest up towards the ceiling, drawing the shoulders down away from your ears. So as you lift your chest, focus on the elevation of the heart area, because if you lift from the heart area, then you draw the shoulder blades in, and it's a good way to lift the chest and then separate the shoulders down away from your ears. So hold on to your knees, just look down at the floor, look at something that's not moving. Just spend a moment to just observe the feeling of your body in the pose. Fill the lungs from the bottom to the top and empty the lungs from the top to the bottom. Release your knees, bring your hands into Namaste, press your palms firmly together, and then allow your eyes to gently close with an exhalation. Maintain softness in the jaw by drawing the lower teeth consciously away from the upper teeth. Soften your tongue, soften your throat. Just listening to the sound of the breath as it enters and as it exits. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet your chest. And then release your hands to your knees, palms facing upwards. Just hold the chin against the chest against the chin. And just spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. Just allowing that feeling of positive energy to grow in the heart area into a ball of abundance. And then Hold on to your knees with your hands, the palms attaching to the knees. And then hold on to that feeling of abundance as you raise your head. Just lifting up into the chest, elevating the heart area, drawing the shoulders down away from the ears at the same time. Lifting up into the heart area, elevating it to the ceiling, lengthening the shoulders away from your ears. Take a deep inhalation, and then with the exhalation, turn to the right side. Just observing that there is evenness underneath the seat bones as you turn. There's evenness underneath the feet. So draw the abdomen across. So the belly button points towards the knee and beyond. Turn from the abdomen and the ribs and the shoulders. Listening to the breath, using the out breath to intensify the turn. And then come back to the center, lift up into the heart area. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the left, drawing your abdomen across your ribs, your shoulders, keeping the neck and the head just pointing forwards. Using the out breath to intensify the turn. And then come back to the center. Just come off your lift and then sit back on your heels, big toes together and your knees nice and wide. Just let your legs settle into the position to start off with. So let the shins mold themselves into the ground, and just observe, does the whole of the shin make contact with the floor? So we're kind of working with a bit of a focus on balance this week. So is the whole of the shin down? So if you're on a soft floor, chances are the shin's probably down okay. If you're on a hard floor, even though you've got your mat, maybe the shins need a little bit of assistance. So just pick up the front of the shin, the top of the shin, and extend it away from the ankle, so that you can get the shin bone to press down into the floor. So as soon as the bottom of the shin, the middle of the shin, and the top of the shin can access the floor, as soon as you can find that action with balance, with levelness, then you can elevate up into the chest more evenly, lifting the heart area, and then coming forwards, stretching your arms out in front, working with even action, and then bring the forehead down or put a block underneath your head. Listen to the breath. So work to extend evenly. So both arms are working evenly. Being conscious of one arm that isn't as evenly active as the other. One leg, maybe the arms are working, the legs aren't. So try and even out that level of effort. Because then, rather than straining, we can relax into the extension. And then bring your hands underneath your knees and then come back up into a seated position, sitting back on your heels, just again observing just the feeling of the chest elevating. Is there that innate evenness at the seat bones? Now we're going to go into dog down, but Algo, you've got there's the ball of your foot. You've got something that's uncomfortable, so you could always use some blocks, and you could bring your heels onto the. I know you said just to do normal stuff, but this could just help you to so if you get some blocks and then just wrap the blocks so that they aren't going to slide away. And when you come into dog down, you can just break, rather than spending all that time on the ball of your foot, you can bring the heel down and then you can push either your energy into the heels, or you can even lift the toes. But this way it will just take weight off the ball of the foot. So just come into the pose however it feels. In fact, let's all just do this. Just pressing the heels down onto the block. Just observe how pressing the heels down allows you to straighten the legs a little more willingly. Also, putting the feet on blocks like this prevents you from kind of dropping the heels, so that, because often people want to drop the heels before the legs are ready to go down. So it's a good way of just activating your legs. So you can press the heel down onto the floor and lift your toes, but that's pretty strong. But you can just see how that feels. Just breathe evenly. Breathing deeply, just observing how much more you can lift the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs. Draw the abdomen towards the spine. Lift the heart area towards the arms. Taking deep inhalations, deep exhalations filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And then just step your feet forwards, just come up into a standing position, and then just release blocks, have them set up for your hands, and then bring your feet as wide apart as your mat for half uttanasana. So if you've got back problems, then you might want to just go halfway like this. I was doing that last week because I did my back in, if you remember. Otherwise, just use the blocks. So stamp the feet into the floor, spread the toes, press the big toe firmly into the floor, stretch the little toes out to the side, hit your heels outwards, turn the thighs, the fronts of the thighs inwards. Push the inner knees away from each other, lift the inner knees up towards the groin. Lift up into the chest, raise your arms up, and then hinge at the hips, come forwards, hinging at the hips, and then bring fingertips onto the blocks, or whatever use whatever lift you need. So although, I mean, I could easily just come down all the way down to the floor, maybe not at the moment because my back is still, it's pretty much there, but still feels stiff. So maybe going all the way down wouldn't be perfect for me. But, you know, usually I can easily just reach down to the floor. But using the blocks allows me to before I go all the way down to really activate the legs. So the activation of the legs comes from the slab of the front of the thigh. So you lift it up towards the hip socket and then turn the front of the thigh inwards. So see if you can activate that action, and see if you can activate that action evenly so that both thighs feel like they're working evenly. One isn't working more willingly than the other, although inevitably that will be the case. So try and even the effort, try and get the more reluctant side to follow the more enthusiastic side. Tighten the kneecaps, press the front of the knee really firmly through to the back of the knee. Turn the inner knee towards the back of the room, lift the inner knee up towards the groin. Lift the shin bone out of the ankle socket, turn in the front of the shin inwards. Lift the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs, project the chin and the chest forwards. And then just come down a little lower if you can, if it's not going to strain your back. Just listen to the breath. If you can reach down to the floor, then do. Lift in the legs in the way that you're doing, trying to prise the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs. So maybe you notice that when you turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, you broaden the backs of the thighs from the inner thigh to the outer thigh. And that action gives you space in your hips. Projecting the chin and the chest forwards. Breathing evenly and deeply. And then just walk your hands forwards. Just bring your hands into shoulder width apart, and then step back, or use the blocks if you need them. Step back into dog down and activate your legs as you were doing in uttanasana. Lifting the thighs, turning them inwards. Lifting the kneecaps, pressing them through to the backs of the knees. Lifting the shin bone, turning them inwards. Lifting the seat bones away from the backs of the thighs. Lifting the heart area towards the arms. Spreading your weight away from the heel of the hand and into the palm and into the fingers. Like you're kind of smoothing that weight away from the heels of the hands. So the hands have to be flat into the floor. Keep the legs activated, and then draw your heels a little closer to the floor, but not at the expense of losing that action of the legs. So I can easily bring my heels down to the floor, but not if I'm activating my legs firmly. Okay, and then step your feet forwards, come up into the standing position, and then come into Tadasana. So have the inner edge of the feet together, and then activate your legs in the same way as we were activating them in uttanasana. So lifting the thigh muscle up into the hip socket, turning the front of the thigh inwards so that you feel that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. Press the kneecap really firmly into the socket, into the back of the knee, turning the inner knees towards the floor, and then lifting the inner knee up towards the groin. It's a subtle action, but it's an important one that stops you from dropping your insteps. Lift the shins and turn them inwards. Tuck the tailbone in. Draw the abdomen towards the spine. Lift the heart area towards the ceiling. Lengthen the shoulders down into the fingers. Lengthen the neck out of the shoulders and into the skull. Just observe how your feet connect to the ground. Is there evenness of action? Is there evenness of contact? Or is one foot on one side of the foot more than the other? So are you favouring the heel on one foot more than the other? Try and activate the legs evenly. Observing from the feet. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards your chest, and then step or jump your feet nice and wide. Turn your left toes in a little and the right leg and foot all the way out. And then spread the toes of that back foot. Spread the toes of the right foot. So yesterday we were talking about this evenness of action. And in trikonasana, often, we kind of allow this to happen. So the hips come out of line, and then all of our weight kind of drives itself down into this right foot as you come down this way, and then you lose the action with that back leg. So suck this hip in, press from the hip down into the heel, really see if you can create that conscious connection between the hip and the heel. Lift up into the chest, activating both legs, turning the legs in the opposite direction to tadasana so that you broaden in the pelvis. So have your hands on your hips, lift up into the chest, up into the heart area. And then maintaining that connection between the hip and the heel of that back leg. Come down, find the shin. So I run out of ceiling height a little, but lengthen up into that upper arm rather than landing down into the bottom arm. Turn the chest to face the ceiling. Breathe evenly, keeping that back leg even, observing whether there is evenness of action, whether you're turning the legs evenly, whether the weight of the body is even on both feet. And then come back to the center, swap the feet around, turn the right toes in and the left leg and foot all the way out. Again, just working for evenness of extension, lifting the thigh muscles up, trying to keep this hip level by sucking this outer hip inwards, lengthening from the hip and down into the heel. Really make that mental connection between the hip and specifically the heel. And then come over, maintaining that connection from the hip and into the heel. Lengthening into the upper arm as much as the lower arm, so that you're stretching out from the plane of the heart into both arms. So you're not landing on the bottom arm, you're just stretching down towards the leg. Turning the abdomen to face the ceiling, looking up. And then come back to the center, bring the feet parallel, and then step or jump your feet back together, and then come back up into Tadasana. Just observe the action of the body. Listen to the breath. Just go back to the legs, activating your Tadasana. Hitting the shins back so that your weight is in your heels, just making sure that the weight of the legs feels even. Stretch Your arms forwards, interlock your fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head. Listening to the breath. Release your arms, swap the interlock of the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head again. Over baddangulyasana. And then release your arms. Bring your feet hip width apart. And again, do half uttanasana if you're protecting your back. Otherwise, have your feet hip width apart, turn your toes in, raise your arms, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows, wrap your fingers around your elbows, extend your elbows up towards the ceiling, and then come forwards and just hang down. Activating the legs as you were doing, stretching out the back, activating the legs. Through yoga, one can begin to develop a perfect balance between both sides of the body. All of us begin with imbalances, favouring one side or the other. When one side is more active than the other, the active side must become the guru for the inactive side to make it equally active. To the weaker side, we must apply attention. We must also show more care. We show keener interest to improve a dull and struggling friend than for an eager and intelligent one. In the same way, you have to show yourself this same compassion and act on the weaker side of the body while taking pleasure in the achievement of the active side. Precision in action comes when the challenge by one side of the body is met by an equal counter-challenge of the other. This ignites the light of knowledge. You must keep your balance by using the intelligence of the body, whether instinct, feeling, or ability, but not by strength. When you keep the balance by strength, it is physical action. When by intelligence of the body, it is relaxation in action. Evenness is harmony, and in that evenness alone you learn. Just release your arms, bring your hands into the hips, bend your knees on the way up if you need to, and then come up into a standing position. Just come down onto the floor, down onto your back, and then come down into supta, baddha. So pulling the feet towards your seat bones, just allowing your body to just open up at the front, allowing the front of the hips to open, allowing the front of the pelvis to open, allowing the front of the chest to open. So there's something really specific about injury, isn't there? It makes you work in a different way. And momentarily that's a little frustrating, it's a little restrictive, but actually part of that journey of recovery is suddenly enjoying the openness that once you start to recover that you take for granted in everyday life. So while injury is annoying, frustrating, restrictive, the recovery is part of the journey. And as you feel that your body begins to recover, you have to be respectful of it. Don't push it too far, too hard, too quickly. So spend time in the pose, feeling the pose. A lot of the time we're concerned with what the pose looks like on the outside. Like Instagrammable ballet dancer yoga. But actually, we really need to learn when the body is fit and able. We need to learn how to read the body, because the body sends us signals throughout our practice. And some of those signals are asking us to ease off. Some of them are asking us to extend more. So what injury does in recovery is to make us more aware of the signals that the body sends us. And of course, we work with caution around those signals. But consider the signals that parts of the body don't appear to be sending you. So it's easy to focus on areas of stiffness or resistance. Is it easy to focus on areas that are supple and just move into the pose with ease? And often we're overlooking the experience of feeling. And so when we're in a pose, we obviously pay attention to the resistance. Do we pay attention to the ease? Because actually we can relieve the resistance by focusing away from that and working into the areas of dullness. Because often when we have an injury, unless it's an external injury, as in, you've kind of cut yourself or whatever, that's an injury that is kind of not necessarily deep inside the body. But unless we pay attention to the other side of the body, all we do is become crippled by our injury. Maybe crippled isn't the right word, but we become blocked by it. So just feel inside the body. Draw your attention into the physical body. Draw your attention away from resistance and areas of injury. And if an injury is on the left-hand side of the body, then draw your consciousness into the right-hand side of the body in the mirror image. And perhaps you notice that as soon as you do that, the area of resistance eases. So we can do this in supta baddangulyasana because we're on the floor, because we're still. But the challenge really is, can we do it when we're in standing poses, when we're in more complex poses? Sometimes a pose is a bit of a game of twister of lefts and rights, and we're thinking more about where the leg goes rather than how the leg feels. But this whole idea of balance in harmony has to come from feeling, from observation, of a willingness to draw your focus into the sensations of the physical body. That isn't necessarily drawing yourself into the mind, because the mind can do a lot of challenging things. It can set us off in all sorts of directions that send our day into bad places. But if we draw our attention into the sensations within the body, and we've been in supta baddangulyasana for a fair while now, and how has being in supta baddangulyasana in a kind of a passive pose, how does that affect the sensations of the body? Maybe you can feel a lot of sensation in the legs. What about the chest and the arms? Can you draw your attention into the chest, into the arms? And then that sensation of the legs feels more balanced out. So it isn't just from left to right, it can be from limb to limb. So if there's discomfort in the pelvis, draw your attention to the shoulders. There's discomfort in the feet, draw your attention to your hands. Okay, when you're ready, just gently draw your knees towards each other. Have the knees together, the feet apart. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. So recovery from injury is about protecting that injured area. Of course it is. But to a degree, it's about just leveling out the mindset, about drawing the sensations into the body and trying to find the counterbalance. Just roll onto your side and then sit yourself up into cross legs. So just be in cross legs with your hands holding onto your knees, and then lift the heart area up to the ceiling, drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Draw the chin forwards and down to meet the chest. Just spend a little time in Jalandhara Bandha, incorporating Mula Bandha, lifting the anal sphincter up towards the diaphragm region. And just focus on filling the lungs from the bottom to the top and allowing that in-breath to overflow into the arms, the torso and the legs. Seek balance of awareness in all positions by observing the differences on the right and left, as well as the intensity of stretch from plane to plane, limb to limb, muscle to muscle, joint to joint, and from bottom to top, side to side, and back to front. Create equal stretch, equal stability, equal spacing, and equal intensity of movement. To bring a part of the body in correct alignment, you have to work with the whole body. You have to work with each and every part of the body. For each asana or pranayama, you have to know what the function or state of each area and each part of the body should be, whether active or passive, stable or mobile. When performing asanas, no part of the body should be idle. No part should be neglected. If you're stretching the right leg, for example, the left leg should not be forgotten. On the contrary, you have to alert the left leg to remain stable. This complementary action frees up the right leg to move with ease. Extend where the body is not moving. If you perspire on one side, you should also evenly perspire on the other. When you perspire more on one side, you have not used the other portion fully. Perspiration should be even, but not excessive. In each asana, if the contact between the body and the floor, the foundation, is good, the asana will be performed well. Always watch your base. Be attentive to the portion nearest the ground. Correct first from the root. The standing poses are meant to begin providing this foundation for life. They strengthen the ankles and the knees. When a person is disturbed or dejected, you'll notice they can't stand firmly on their feet. These postures teach one how to stand straight so that the brain can float in its position. Feet are like the root of a tree. If one can't stand properly on one's feet, one develops a negative attitude towards life, and one's yoga too becomes unsteady. These postures help to maintain stability in times of difficulty, and even when catastrophes occur. When stability becomes a habit, maturity and clarity follow. Stability requires balance. Okay, release Mula Bandha. Release Jalandhara Bandha, just lift up into the chest, holding onto the knees, elevating the chest up to the ceiling. Take a deep inhalation in through the nose. And then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders. Maintaining that focus of attention on sensation. Come back to the center, hold onto the knees. Lift up into the chest and then turn to the left. Just observing how perhaps this feels different to the turn at the beginning. And although we've done fairly minimal poses, hopefully we have drawn attention inwards, pratyahara. Come back to the center, and then come down onto your back, and then pull your feet towards you. Get a block for your seat bones. Gather the shoulder blades together. It's not really the seat bones, it's the sacrum area and the tailbone of the spine, and then try and get the sacrum and the tailbone to sit flat on the block, and then the pelvis, the front rim of the pelvis lengthens away from the abdomen slightly, and then lift up into the heart area. Gather the shoulder blades so that you're right on the tops of the shoulders, and then hold the sides of the mat like you want to tear it apart, so you broaden the chest. So you can stay with bent knees, or if your back feels okay, you can stretch into one leg, bring it back, stretch it to the other leg, bring it back. If that felt okay in your back, then you can stretch both legs away, but keeping the pelvis lengthening from the abdomen, lengthening the abdomen away from the pelvis, keeping the sacrum flat on the block, just broadening the breath, breathing into the armpit chest, into the back chest. Observing the balance of the pose. Just listening to the breath. So this is a gentle inversion. When your legs are straight, it stretches out the fronts of the hips. Okay, when you're ready, just come up onto the tiptoes, perhaps come lift the seat bones up off the block, adjust your shoulders, and then guide yourself back down onto the floor. Pulling your knees in toward your chest. Just have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom, just a gentle massage on the spine. And then when your back has recovered, then sit yourself up, get your blanket for your head, just for a final sirvasana. Just make sure your blanket is well folded so it feels even. Stretching yourself out along the floor. And then release into the floor. And just like we were aiming to extend evenly, can you relax evenly? Observing that if there is tension in one side of the body, draw your attention to the other side of the body, or to an opposite limb, or to a joint. Let go of the physical body so that the body becomes heavy, releasing the muscles of the arms and the legs. As you relax the body, perhaps you observe that feeling of energetic lightness that radiates out from the bones into the muscles and the organs, to the flesh and into the skin. Distributing that feeling of lightness evenly down into the tips of the toes, into the tips of the fingers, into the top of the head, using your in-breath and your out-breath to distribute it. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. Just observing if your areas of discomfort have released a little. And then just wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. And then bring your knees in towards your chest. Just have a little rock, a grounding massage, just bringing yourself back into the physical body, back into the room. Just easing out any tension on the back. And then roll over onto your right side. Just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into a seated position. Just coming into cross legs. Just a final cross legs with your hands in the masti. Just a final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists and the inversions bring to the body and to the mind. And then draw your chin down to meet your chest. Spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you have created inside. And send some of that positive energy out into the world. And then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And as you raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you've stretched yourself out, but also really evened out any tensions in the body, just to give yourself a feeling of relief in areas of discomfort. So thank you very much for joining me.